Jeanne d'Arc Alter, the Witch of Vengeance, is at her core a saint, a fictional saint born from emotions and despair that did not belong to her, shaped by desires that did not belong to her, and given memories that did not belong to her. And even then, they are incomplete, as proven by the absence of Jeanne's mother from her own memories. This absence is proof of her fictional existence, as well as her declaration of hating God, a being only created through a manipulation of proper human history, devoid of a true connection to even the France she was meant to burn. She could not even be described as residue, for the true saint could never leave behind even a single grudge. Such is the nature of a saint, an otherworldly mentality that fascinates, attracts, and scares those steeped in sins. Her only memories revolve around the heat of flames that unjustly burned her, a heat she will never experience, a heat she will never be able to replicate. Jeanne d'Arc's noble phantasm, La Pucelle, are flames that can annihilate anything in exchange for her life, as they are a conceptual crystallization of a heartfelt prayer, the desire and ability to save something at the cost of herself. Alter's flames, however, are those of false hatred. Though they may kill, they can easily be circumvented or even evaded by lesser heroic spirits such as Emilia Alter. Their purpose is solely to spread hatred, to repay evil with suffering. But no matter how strong they grow, how many grudges they absorb and repay, in the end, there will never be a miracle. Her flames will never embody the strength they gave to Jeanne d'Arc. And yet her role is that of an avenger, a class that is fundamentally incompatible with a saint's nature. She is to be steeped in sin, forced to carry grudges, encouraged to hate, and meant to tear down everything in her way. Her only way to keep herself together despite this fundamental contradiction is to convince herself that she is no saint. But of course, that alone is not enough. As long as she exists, her force role will eat away at her. She can only compensate with more hatred to convince herself of her role, which drags her into an inescapable spiral of self-destruction, a perfect representation of an avenger's nature, but a cursed existence nonetheless. The result is the inability to live, cursing life while envying it, dismissing it as worthless while cherishing it all the same. At the end, she could only desperately search for validation, but only in a twisted fashion, given how she has thoroughly attempted to accept herself as an evil entity. The desire to be punished by God, the entity that her true self loved, and she herself attempts to ridicule, yet hoping that one day she will be acknowledged by. This is what God must do if he is something that truly exists. As she declares that she hates God, she is a heretic to his belief and in need of correction. By punishing her, she will be validated, and her twisted reverence, which she perhaps also obtained from Gilles de Rais, will be rewarded. This is the significance behind her first bond line. If there is a God, surely I will be punished for this. At the end, however, she was not punished and judged by the divine. She was confronted by representations of humanity, felled not by God, but merely by another disciple of him, directly confronted with the creeping thought she attempted to deny at first, that she is the falsehood, not the truth. It is here that she would have met her end, would she not have made a choice. A choice between rejecting the falsehoods from which she was created and accepting her annihilation, or the fear of complete oblivion spurring her on to survive. However, neither of the choices would grant her satisfaction ultimately. At first, she tried to set things right through her own strength, atoning for her sins by herself, going as far as rejecting anybody's help and laughing at the idea of continuing on as the servant. By the end, however, she swayed away from her original decision. She never managed to achieve anything, or understand what she should have done up until that point. The fear of true nothingness permeated through her, the chance to be perhaps not even reincarnated due to being a complete fabrication. It made her cling to the shreds of the hypothetical, the impossible shadow cast by the saint found in the throne of heroes. And of course, though now that she had the small chance to exist, she was disgusted at the method through which she did it. She did not wish to live as a mere shadow that could never be perceived by anyone else, damned to a lonely existence. Once more she tried to become that which is real, by trying to overthrow that which was real already, only to fail just like in Orleans. Foiled by the same person that defeated her before already, She could only concede the fact that she had nowhere to go. Any pride or dignity that she might have had was fully shattered, and for a brief moment she was put into a position where her true feelings were revealed. Her feelings of constant inferiority towards the true saint, her inability to accept the concern that the counterfeit servants had for a vengeful woman like her. She was given the advice to truly accept her nature as an avenger while joining Chaldea, to use her powers for the good of humans, despite her role being that of hating them. In that sense, it was a way to appease her contradictory existences. She could fulfill the function she was born with, while inside she could fulfill her deep innate nature as a saint. Her growth becomes visible in Shinjuku, where we see her putting her foot down, where she declares herself as a proper member of the Avenger class when fighting against Lobo and trying to take responsibility. At the same time, she ends up reflecting on her inability to understand Jean's experience, knowing fully well that as a separate entity that only has a warped memory but not the true experience. Though altogether she's a bit more comfortable as a person here, because she is not on the verge of disappearing and being forgotten, but has at least one entity, Chaldea and its master, who acknowledge her time and time again by interacting with her despite her behaviour. Though she acts cruelly and coldly, the core of her character is similar to Jean, in that she knows a good person when she sees one. She just has to convince herself that good people, in this case Ritsuka, are fools, but at the same time she wants to find somebody to respect and to be acknowledged by that person, originally that being God with her twisted faith. She ends up moving away from this slowly, as instead of being acknowledged by God, she is acknowledged by the ones who defeated her to begin with, and arguably shattered the illusion, which grants her more emotional comfort and stability than God could have ever given to her. The end of her character growth can arguably be seen in her summer form. Liberated from her role as an Avenger, she is able to discover a passion she could dedicate herself to, without being constantly reminded of her obligations. She is far less stern and cold, as she can now freely express herself, without holding back as much as she usually does. Yet, despite being freed, she continues to search for a place and time to die, unable to fully abandon the realization that she is not meant to be, not a gentle or comfortable end, but a satisfying, meaningful end to her own illusionary tale is what she desires. In the end, this is all an ephemeral dream. A life form born from illusions will remain an illusion. As long as Chaldea and its master exist, she has a place and reason to live. But once everything is completed, all that will remain is the end of a dream. Do not forget the struggling saint born from mud and curses, as she tries to stand, but can only end up stumbling. When everything's over, all that will remain are forgotten dreams and equally precious memories. Now, a huge thank you to Sparrow from the Fate Type Moon Discord for providing me such a wonderful script to work with. I hope any viewers enjoyed their experience, and I plan to deliver more Fate Type Moon content, so be sure to stick around for that. But this has been the Arson Department, and I bid you farewell.